Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV. On this Wednesday morning, today we're talking about the Keith Foster verdict. It came in yesterday afternoon. He was found guilty. It's 436 MeTV option 11. We'll have our special guest in the studio today. You're welcome to call in and weigh in. We talked about this on Monday. Today we have a verdict. No doubt about it. It didn't take long for the jury to reach a decision on the Keith Foster case, and we'll talk about that during the course of the program today, and maybe we'll get into some other topics as well, like the City Council. We might even talk about Brooke Ashton, who was a guest here a couple of weeks ago, and the Fresno Unified School Board. You know, they're hiring these assistants for $25 grand a year. They voted on that already. So what does that mean for you and me? And if you have kids that go to the Fresno Unified School District, should they spend that money in other areas more wisely, my friends? We'll talk about that as well if we have time. But today we're talking about Keith Foster. Just a quick programming note before we get into the trial. The trial took a lot longer than actually the jury took to make a decision. Tomorrow's guest is going to be, we have two of them. Carrie Franklin is going to be here along with Becky Cinema to review the movies. Then on Friday, Peter Nazaridian will be in the house. He'll be talking about all sorts of things on Friday. We might even touch on this Keith Foster case as well. Meantime, you're watching us live on Comcast, channel 375, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. It's a call-in show. It's live. You can call in anytime you'd like, even during the monologue. We'll put you on hold. 43.6 and 13.1 over-the-air broadcast if you have a digital antenna. Now the replay, two more times, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. After that, you can catch us on YouTube. You know, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that the jury reached a verdict so quickly in the Keith Foster trial. He is the former deputy police chief here in the city of Fresno. He put in nearly 30 years on the job. At one time, they thought perhaps he would replace Jerry Dyer and be the next police chief here in Fresno, but it took only 2.5 days for that jury. I'm talking 8 women and 4 men. They came to that conclusion that yes, he was guilty. Let's put up the artist rendition now, and we'll talk about this during the course of the trial. Marshall Hodgkins, it was the defense attorney in this case. Both sides, though, rested their case last Thursday. Deliberations began on Friday. After taking the weekend off, of course, the jury then took all of Monday. They took all of Tuesday, and they found Keith Foster guilty of conspiring to distribute heroin and marijuana. Here's what he is facing: a possible 20 years in federal prison and a $1 million fine for the heroin conviction, another 5 years behind bars, possibly, and a $250,000 penalty for the marijuana conviction. The jury could not decide on 6 other counts, but Judge Anthony Ishii told both sides to really, they want everybody back in his courtroom on July the 10th for a hearing on whether or not Foster should be retried on those 6 counts. The jury, by the way, 8 women, 4 men, deadlocked on the 6 counts, 7-5. Foster was not handcuffed after the verdict. He was released, but he must return to federal court on October the 10th to be sentenced. Apparently, Foster is not considered a flight risk, considering his ties to the community and his lifelong work as a Fresno police officer. But we'll talk about that during the course of the program. There were 6 other defendants who copped plea deals, including 2 of Foster's relatives, 2 nephews, but Foster himself refused to a plea deal, instead choosing to move forward with a trial. Foster was busted by the feds 2 years ago, all wiretaps, Federal agents claim they heard Foster talking about, buying drugs, talking about heroin and marijuana with the 6 other defendants. Initially, Foster's attorney, Marshall Hodgkins, told the jury his client was working on an undercover case, but members of the Fresno Police Department, including Jerry Dyer, disputed that. Despite making more than $14,000 a month, Foster had plenty of debt, paying more than $5,000 a month in spousal and child support and owing back taxes. When he was busted, agents found oxycodone pills and $1,300 in cash in Foster's car. They also found 98 oxycodone pills in unlabeled pill bottles in his home, along with $10,000 cash, all in $100 bills. A tragic fall from grace. Live in our studio right now is Doug Vagim to talk about this amazing trial that took place. It took all kinds of twists and turns, including the change in testimony by Keith Foster that really contradicted his own attorney. That I found very surprising. Doug, by the way, is a former Fresno County supervisor. He ran for mayor, has all kinds of expertise. We'll get into the Foster trial and what the perception is of the Fresno Police Department now that this trial is finally over. And is Keith Foster a flight risk? How do we know he's not? They come back on October the 10th. That's a long ways away, and he has a lot of time to think between now and then what he wants to do. Who's going to be watching Keith Foster? 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back with our program here today on Connect with Me.
And away we go.
Here's the place that makes you smile. Stick around and stay a while. We're the home of great TV. That's memorable. That's me.
Follow me, sir.
Call them classics, call them the best. Call them favorites, be a guest. Every day there's more to come. Watch and see, there's only one. Me TV.
All you have to do is watch me.
Are you kidding me?
Follow me.
That's memorable. That's me.
That's me.
Me TV.
Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country, the only place where you can find country music, country stars, and country lifestyles 24/7. Heartland, the heart of country.
Now on channel 13.2.
All right. The trial is over. The one of Keith Foster, of course, found guilty on 2 counts, selling heroin and marijuana, or looking to buy it, or both. Not sure which, but the trial is over. Doug Vagim is here. Good morning, Doug. Good to have you back on the program here.
Thanks, John. Thanks
Good
for
to
having
see
me
you.
back. Always good to be here.
Thank you. It's always good to have you here and your expertise. And
Nice touch on the American flag, too. I really.
yeah, well, you know, July 4th is coming up pretty
Well,
soon.
yeah.
Memorial Day is this weekend, so let's wave the American
Well, it
flag.
looks good. It looks real good.
Yeah, so anyway, so the Keith Foster trial, what surprised you about it? Anything?
Well, what surprised me in a way is the gentleman with his background, particularly in law enforcement and how many years he served, that he was caught up into a situation, it looks like, and I'm just going from what the reports are, what was presented in the case, driven by debt, driven by having to make up for a divorce, expensive and costly divorce for payments, whether child support and alimony. The fact of it is he had a lifestyle, and one of the things in our culture, John, is a gentleman of Mr. Foster's age, particularly, that we all have, at least I went through it, we all went through it. We don't want to have anybody know that we're going through hard times. We want to look like our lifestyle looks the same. And if your lifestyle means you're spending money, you have to find money and spend money. Sometimes you just don't want to show your peer group that you can't afford that lunch, or you can't afford to go to the golf course that weekend, or whatever. So it drives you to do certain things. And if that's the case, that's an American culture that the gentleman, I believe, fell into, because it was a way of getting money to supplant the money that he was having to pay out to demands of the courts, and he got him where he is. And unfortunately, I hope that he can make something positive out of this, because he surely got talent to get where he was. And whether it's doing something in prison to help inmates I surely hope he doesn't get put in the general population, and I don't think they will at the federal system. They have so many other venues that they can put someone.
Yeah.
But he's got a long road to hoe in the rest of his life. And I think Judge Ishii will sentence him appropriately. And then, as you know, in the federal system, there's minimums that they can't bust. And some of the discussion and arguments out there, those minimums are too harsh. But right now, they're in play, and he'll be facing them.
Yeah, and the federal court, as you well know, is a lot tougher, a lot stricter rules than Superior Court. You go to Superior Court, and there's all kinds of flexibility.
The judge has more flexibility, yes.
Almost zero flexibility in the federal system. They have their set rules. They have their minimum, as you say. They don't budge from that. Federal judges are, generally speaking, a lot tougher on defendants than they are in the Superior Court system.
Right.
And so not being put in the general population for the simple reason that he's an ex-cop.
Yes, absolutely, because he could run into a family member or somebody that came through the system of Fresno PD that they recognize the name or they recognize the account, that maybe they pick up TV and video. You know, we have prisons in this valley that pick up our local stations.
Including this one.
Including this one. And I would say that the law enforcement and the federal system ought to think I'm sure they do. I mean,
yeah.
And there's other prison systems in which there's much more flexibility. You remember the old Club Fred days? Well, there's no such thing as that anymore. At least they don't call them that anymore because they've tightened them down. It's not a recreational facility anymore like they used to have. So there are those types of sentencing. However, then the argument can come, hey, wait a minute, a drug dealer is a drug dealer is a drug dealer. Isn't that what he got caught for? You got a guy who's sitting up there doing a hard time in a hard prison, and you're segregating this guy out to a soft place. A lot of decisions to be made. And I think that, I don't know if the judge appoints where the fellow goes or if it's the system itself, and they have a hierarchy with a panel or something like that after he's sentenced, that he will be placed somewhere.
Hey, we borrowed this video from the Fresno Bee, and it is a reaction from the attorney of Keith Foster. We pulled this down just this morning. It's called the Keith Foster, the attorney, Marshall Hodgkins, had this to say after the verdict was read in court.
Hope as far as sentencing is concerned that, as the judge indicated at the end, that his lifelong work for law enforcement in the community will have some type of impact here. I'll simply tell you the only word that is coming in my mind right now is tragedy.
And of course, that video courtesy of John Walker, the Fresno Bee. They were out there for the verdict. Pablo Lopez covered the trial. I think he enjoys covering that kind of stuff, the court system. He does a really well in-depth job at filtering out all the minutia and putting it in the story.
Oh, Pablo's a great reporter for this type
great
of
writer.
stuff. Yes,
Yeah,
he is, and he likes the minutia. He likes the background. He likes the bank shots of what this is. It could be to this, and excellent reporter in this. These instances.
Yeah, he knows the court system. That's the key, and
he loves the intrigue also.
Foster himself went to the witness stand and said, "No, hey, listen, I wasn't running undercover."
Right.
Why did he say that?
Because he had testimony from his peers saying he wasn't.
Dyer, for one.
Right, and a couple of
other people that were that are on the force.
That would know because
one of the NARC agents actually says, "Well, I would have known."
Right.
I would have known,
right.
And so he didn't. So he just said, but see, that hurt him because of the credibility factor when his own attorney made that claim.
Right, and the base claim, well, the base claim was that he was doing investigative because the chief wanted him to come back with some analysis of what's happening out there, and he says he was playing into the game to get that analysis.
Chief says that's not what happened. I didn't send him out there to do that.
Right, but he's saying that's what he did. And so when that counter testimony happened, I think that changed the jury real quick.
Right, but I got to tell you something though. It really is a blow to the Fresno Police Department as well. Terms of trust, terms of perception. Who do I trust now?
Mm-hmm. Well, humans are humans, and it can happen anywhere. We all know about police officers across this country getting themselves in as much trouble as the general citizenry. You hope it doesn't happen, but it can happen. And I say the gentleman was driven more so not by the fact that he was a bad cop. It's just the fact that the general pressures in our society, when you owe money and you are of his age, and you want to show a lifestyle, and then you're not hurting, and your lifestyle is not really changing because you can buck it up. I'll tell you, that's what succumbs a lot of folks.
What really surprises me, though, is how many people can you name that you know off the top of your head that are making 14 grand a month? It's a lot of money.
In Silicon Valley, you'd probably trip over him, but not in this town.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you would trip over him, but in Fresno, how many people do you know making that kind of money? He's paying $5 grand in alimony, child support,
right,
which he could afford if he's making 14 grand a month. But you know, so he's got what, 10 grand left, roughly speaking, 9 grand to live on.
Yeah, but that was his public salary and benefit package.
I understand.
And so, you know, there's a lot of employees in a government system that can earn that kind of money. The fact of it is, it probably didn't satisfy his lifestyle to lose that kind of money, $5,000 out the door.
Hang on, caller.
That he had car payments and he probably had another apartment.
Well, you know, people, and there are thousands that live well below the poverty line here. And he can't live on 14 grand a month? 26%
below the poverty and 46% of what they call a marginal poverty.
So how did he get in all this trouble with money? That's the question. And I know you're not you're not personally connected to Keith Foster to know this, but how does an athlete who's making millions go into debt? I mean, that's always been my question.
Again, the empathy that I try to express early is the fact that we have a syndrome in our society where we're driven by show. We're driven by, we want to show our peer group that we're doing okay.
That's what it boils down to.
That's what it boils down to,
It could be 14 grand, it could be 14 million a month.
Right, and if you lose that money and you don't want to show anybody you got a dent or you can't afford to do this, you're going to find it another way.
You're going to find it in drugs or whatever.
And I don't think he went out and peddled drugs. It was just there because his own family was there.
Well, yeah, he had 2 nephews, and then they had connections, and there were 4 others that were involved.
And I guess he figures that was easy money and no one would know. And all of a sudden somebody...
How could he think that no one would know?
I don't know. That's one of the biggest problems. I think that's what gets everybody... Bernie Madoff didn't think anybody would know, did they?
All right. Caller, just hang on a second. We'll get you on the air in a second here. Don't hang up. Hang on. All right. Okay. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Speaking of which, that nobody would know about the debts, all the gambling, and all, excuse me, the whores, and all that goes with it, that runs these guys over to that other side. What would Fresno think of, say, maybe Jerry Dreyer retiring, because he is in charge of this dog and pony show. He's betrayed my confidence as well as yours, John, and your guest. So we know that we're not really safe. He can't account for anything. That was his right-hand man. It was a 25-year relationship with that department. Everybody that I know, that I talk to, and strangers, they're all like, oh, yeah, no, they know exactly what's going on. So if Foster had his whole family selling drugs, doesn't that just go to show, John, that I talked to you the other day? Keith Foster was racially enslaved and used and abused by an old game that's been in play, and Jerry is the guy that had the steering wheel. So Jerry knew what was going on the whole time. Why doesn't he do the right thing and resign, put somebody in there that's honest? People in Fresno are sick of all this corruption.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to stay on the line and hear what
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good call. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, first of all, we don't know how much Mr. Dyer or Chief Dyer knew. But the assumption is, how could you walk over somebody every day and see the stress on a person's face? I mean, you know people well enough when you see them every day that they're stressed, they're pushed out.
You can see it.
You can see it. But then you can attribute that to the guy's going through a divorce. He's got kids issues because he wants to see them more than maybe the wife wants him to see them. All those kind of things can add up. So maybe the chief kind of patted that into the factor to say, okay, we're going to give him some space. We're going to allow him to let the dust settle on these issues that have come his way. Anything could have happened this way. But the gentleman speaks to the fact that someone has been entrapped. Everyone entraps themselves in their own syndromes if they've got to be one way or another. And I think Deputy Chief Foster got himself into a situation that he had to have a lifestyle, and he was going to keep that lifestyle. And that
yes, but this is a betrayal of trust, public trust. And how do we know for sure that there aren't more cops like him in the system here in the city of Fresno? How do we know that there are not more? How do we put our total trust into Jerry Dyer and into this police department, not knowing for sure that there might be others, Doug? There might be others.
Well, that has been the perpetual problem in police work across this nation forever, because they see it all. They see others do things that they get away with. There's millions of dollars, I'm talking about nationwide, of cash left behind on a table when an arrest is made.
Yeah.
What prevents those people from just grabbing a little bit and stuffing it in their pockets? It's their own integrity.
Yeah.
Really, it's their own integrity. You don't call in the cashier guys right away. You would delay a little bit. 99 and 9/10% of them would do all that, but there is that time when it can happen. It's the nature of the job.
I'm not painting up the entire department with one brush. I'm not saying the whole department is corrupt. I'm saying there could be others within that department scattered throughout, and we don't know who they are. Maybe Jerry Dyer doesn't know who they are. Maybe nobody knows who they are. Maybe it's just it's a secret. No one knows at this point.
Which is not untypical across every police department in this nation, because they're human beings too, and they come out of the general population. They aren't bred the special way. They don't come out of test tubes. They got their own human emotions. They come to work with problems, and they see more problems when they're there. They have to run towards problems, not go away from them. They got to figure out what the bad guys are doing, that kind of stuff. So did Chief Dyer ignore too much? Was he not a good manager by making sure that he knew where his top folks are, and his top folks could tell him where the rest of the folks were? I don't know the answer to that.
He claims he didn't know.
Right.
The feds were listening into conversations with wiretaps. I got to take a break. Apparently, they didn't hear Jerry Dyer talking about peddling drugs, or he would have been arrested too. So Dyer, maybe he kind of had an inkling and just ignored it. Maybe, I don't know.
Well,
he claims that he didn't know.
Well, Foster had a lot of problems that I believe Chief Dyer probably gave him some space. In other words, a divorce.
Gave him some leeway.
Right, because you would do that with an employee. But the fact of it is, maybe it's best, and lesson learned here, be a little bit more cognizant. Is there some opportunity now that we could have somebody turn
and be a bad cop?
And be a bad cop, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Front page of the Fresno Bee right here today. Keith Foster, obviously with Marshall Hodgkins there, walking out of the courtroom. Looks dejected, obviously. Looks a little angry in that photo. I would be too, but if you read this entire article in here, you get some interesting insight. In fact, there's some indication in there in the article that it's way deep in the article. It says that someone had said, well, it's the system that brought down Keith Foster in the end. Someone else said, no, Keith Foster is the one who brought down Keith Foster. He brought himself down. 436 MeTV option 11. What do you think? We talked about this on Monday with Mike Briggs, and it was an interesting show. Now the verdict is in, guilty. What do you think about the police department? Should you trust them? Can you trust them? Will you trust them? Back in just a moment.
Explore strange new worlds on MeTV. Seek out new life.
I've seen old photographs of this period. Let's get out of here.
And new civilizations. Boldly go to Mayberry and the Andy Griffith Show.
Weeknights at 8 on MeTV Fresno.
When you
like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here on the program, 436-ME-TV option 11. Call in and weigh in on the program today. Speaking of Police Chief Jerry Dyer, did he know, did he not know? The feds did not really focus in or zero in or zoom in on him so much, but Jerry Dyer now with a reaction just the other day, he took the witness stand too and said, hey, I didn't order Keith Foster to go undercover. Here's what Dyer had to say after his testimony just a few days ago.
I was directed to be in court, and I came to tell the truth. Whatever questions were asked, to speak the truth. The shock involved with this revelation that, you know, someone like Keith was arrested was shocking to me. And yeah, once the evidence was presented to me at that time by the FBI, it was limited evidence that was presented. One of the things that went through my mind was a sense of betrayal. Having to testify on a case that involves not only a former deputy chief, but also a person that I consider to be a friend, a close friend. And so, and very difficult, especially that's the first time that I had heard any of the tapes.
You're a citizen of this community. Have you lost faith in our Fresno Police Department?
No, I haven't. I would hope, though, that they would figure out what happened here, not necessarily in this case alone, but how do we get the pulse of what is happening and indicators of what are happening to a fellow cop in our system, whether he's the top guy or a lieutenant in the management system, or a chief, deputy chief, or rank and file officer. I would hope they have a system in place, that a feedback mechanism is in place, so they can see a problem happening before it brews to a point where that cop gets himself in trouble and causes a lifetime hurt to him and his family, or her and her family. And I don't know if that's in place. I really don't know all their policies.
Yeah, and he's going to be sentenced in October the 10th. I want to ask you about this flight risk thing. We touched on it just briefly, but I do want to mention the fact that is a lot of time for somebody to sit and think about what you're going to do between now and October. You have the opportunity to maybe make a run for it. Let's take this call here first. Caller, you're on the air with Doug Vagim. So do you think Keith Foster is a flight risk?
Yes, I do, but you know what?
See, there you go.
I still say the chief might have not known what was going on, because sometimes it happens. Had they known, or government officials known, that something was kind of shady, I would have had a wiretap. Get a wiretap and give him time to hang himself more. And then there's no in or for buts with that, okay?
But the Fed, but
he
wait
had
a second,
relatives working for him.
Caller, the Feds came in and did the wiretap.
What's that?
The federal government, the FBI, came in and wiretapped.
Well, in any case, I don't think the films, it was harsh enough. I don't think it was harsh enough, because he'll probably go to a prison where it's real, take it easy, don't worry about it, and, you know, instead of going to a hardcore prison. And number two is that I believe that Jerry Dyer has done the best job he can. I mean, every department has a persons that get involved with it. They shouldn't, and you know, maybe Foster, like you guys say, that you know, he had bills and whatnot, and he needed to get a way out of it, you know. Yeah. But I can only say to Doug is that let it be what's going to happen. It's already has. He's guilty and whatever. But don't blame everything on the chief. That's my own opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the call.
Right,
What do you think,
and
Doug?
that's point well taken. I don't blame everything on the chief. I'm just saying from now on, if there's indicators that you may have anybody in your system that is under stress, that there is a procedure in place, whether a person's in stress or not, that there's indicators that you want feedback on. Not to catch the guy, but to help the guy. That's really what it's all about. And when someone goes too
The feds
far,
are not in the business of helping.
no,
the
I'm
guy.
not talking about the feds. The gentleman
I
called.
know.
He was talking about Chief Dyer, and I'm talking about any manager in any
Right.
system, any department.
But you can only go and help someone to a certain extent. Dyer has to follow the procedure of the law.
Right, and remember,
I mean,
Dyer
he can help Foster all he wants, but he still has to follow the letter of the law to a certain extent.
but Dyer didn't know they were wiretapping him either.
Right.
They
It's
didn't
not.
tell him.
It's not.
So
it's
the fact,
kind of like here. If I was dealing drugs here, all right, I'm sure Mark Sharon, the owner, would say, "Okay, I want to help you, but also if you're doing something illegal, I'm going to have to turn you in."
well, sure, but how did you know that you're not being wiretapped?
Well, you don't know.
Okay. And how
Okay,
did-
when the feds wiretap you, it's completely different than if the Fresno police wiretaps you, because first of all, the feds have much more authority. They can get a warrant just like that to wiretap you, me, anyone. Okay.
Well, on a
They have
criminal
so many-
investigation,
in a
most
criminal investigation, they have many more resources,
Well,
much more manpower.
local law enforcement can wiretap on a criminal investigation also.
They can, but the feds have much more authority than the locals, and they supersede.
Well,
the
they have
local
many more ways of getting the information through their procedural.
Right.
Matter of fact, I don't think they have to go
They
in
can-
and put the old wires to the thing.
No, they
All they got to
don't.
do is order the phone company or the cell company to.
Right. They go through cell phones. They go through hard wires, the regular telephones. They can wiretap. They can scope the internet.
Right.
Any of your social media.
Right.
And so they can put. They can put a tag on you.
Right.
They can have somebody follow you.
Oh, absolutely. That's
The
why there's
feds-
supposed to be laws in place that they don't do that just incidentally.
Right, but the feds, they know what the laws are.
Of course, and they had criminal intent. They had they had a probability that the fellow was doing something criminal, and only reason why they probably knew is they incidentally caught one of the guys in the system that was dealing with Mr. Foster, and that guy either did state's evidence for them, or they got through some other mechanism, whether it was a wiretap or not. Foster's name came up a couple of times, and they said, okay, let's go tap Foster.
And I also believe that the feds do a much more thorough investigation than locals do,
Boy,
because of
absolutely.
the time that they spend on a case, the availability they have in manpower, the availability they have in equipment. They really devote themselves to just one case, and they make sure that they have all the evidence and it's as solid as concrete. So when they go to court, it's a done deal. It's not like Superior Court. A lot of this is circumstantial evidence when it comes into Superior Court. Federal court, federal agents swoop in, they got you.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Well, I mean, just say that Deputy Chief Foster did do a report, and it got lost in the system, and all of a sudden they found it. Oh, he did a report. He really was maybe doing this incidental, not an official undercover. He was just gathering in the streets information, and he kind of had to play this game.
Right.
I mean, a defense attorney could have argued that, which they tried to do in some degree, but they didn't have, let's say, all the evidence that they needed to refute what the FBI evidence counter to their story.
And a federal investigation, too, is much more objective, too, than say, a local case. For example, if Jerry Dyer was investigating Chief Foster, he's emotionally, mentally connected to Foster because he's working with them. The feds are not emotionally or mentally connected to any of these people.
Right.
They come in, they say, okay, we're going to investigate Doug Vagim. Let's put a wiretap. We don't know this guy, but we're going to find out what he's doing.
Remember,
They weren't attached to Foster in any way, shape, or form.
No, but remember, every police department has their own independent review panel, their own IR, and they are not liked by most police departments because they do this type of stuff. They do peer around corners and sneak around to see what you're doing and talk to neighbors and friends to see if you might be up to something bad. That happens all across the country.
I know that.
But the fact of it is, it's pretty tough to do it to a deputy chief.
Right.
Then it's a little bit
But
bigger
they did.
fish. And who knows if the feds were tipped off within the own department itself? We
Nobody
don't know
knows
that.
who tipped him off.
We don't know that.
And we'll never know.
Right, we won't know.
Yeah, all right. The question I have for you, the viewer out there, and for Doug Vagim, which we never really answered here, is Keith Foster a flight risk? Yeah, he's got ties to the community. He's been here 30 years, nearly 30 years in the Fresno Police Department. But a lot of time between now and October the 10th when he is supposed to be sentenced. It's not like he's coming back to court in 2 weeks and he'll be sentenced.
Right.
He has months to think about this thing. Where am I going? Where could I possibly go? Where could I possibly end up? For how many years? He's 53 years old, I believe. So maybe he's thinking about something. You don't know. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Call in and weigh in with your thoughts about that. Is he a flight risk? Back in a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
Yellow finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
All right, back here with the program. Hey, I've yet to hear from Casey from Merced. Remember that call yesterday? Yeah. All right, if you're out there watching, what do you think about Keith Foster? Is he a flight risk? Doug?
Remember, he's got to come back in July for Judge Easty to decide whether or not the feds want to continue those other counts, which we kind of all agree they probably won't, because the minimum here is enough to make their point. Why waste the money when you already got the verdict?
Yeah.
Then you have the October sentencing. I doubt. I think Deputy Chief Foster has enough going for him in the sense the rest of his life that this would be a great opportunity to get a lot of stuff straightened out, that he can now relax to say, okay, I don't need to keep my airs up. It's done. My laundry's out there. Let's turn a page. If he has good support groups, whether it's the chief, whether it's people within the department, whether it's his own attorney, or whether it's his own ministry, in his own a group of folks that
hang on, caller,
that are part of his life that can come and counsel him to say, look, turn the page. You got the rest of your life going.
But he's 53. If he gets 20 years, he'll be 73. If he gets 25, he'll be 78. Does he want to spend that kind of time in prison?
Welcome to the 70s. But look,
there you go.
If people help him along the way, he could be of a big use in that system where he is feeling pretty busy helping others because he knows what is. He's been through it. Now he's really been through it. I hope he doesn't carry a grudge. I hope he does something positive and creates a positive.
But the question in his mind is, will he want to spend the next 25 years and get out when he is 78 years old?
Yeah, and we don't know.
He's going to be thinking about that. Yeah. I guarantee you, between now and October, he'll be thinking about that. Caller, go ahead. What do you say? I'll get back to you in a second, Doug.
Go ahead.
I say, when he gets out, is he going to keep his pension?
Pardon me? I can't hear you, ma'am.
It's a pension.
Is he going to keep his pension when he gets out?
Yeah, well, he had time served up to the time he was found guilty, so that pension belongs to him.
Yeah.
He won't get on a drop program.
And who tipped him off about the wiretapping? Why were they looking after him in the first place?
Well, we don't know.
I don't know. Do you think he's a flight risk?
Could be. Anybody, when they get in the dirty situations he got into, I mean, why not? He has connections and the money.
Yeah.
So you think he's a flight risk, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe, does he have too much time to think about it?
Yes, he had plenty of time to think about it.
Yeah, see, months. He's got months.
Look at, they're patting each other on the back. He gets out of jail. He gets to sit out free. They didn't cuff him. They give pats on the back. Dyer knew everything, and they're letting him.
Well, we don't know what Jerry Dyer
If it was any
knew.
other citizen, he would have been sat in jail a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. But the fact is, he might be sitting around thinking, gee, I don't want to get out of jail when I'm 78. When I'm 78, life is almost over here. What am I going to do? 78 years old. So maybe he's thinking about that in the back of his mind. I don't know. I don't know what Keith Foster's thinking.
Or maybe he's going to write a book, tell-all book on Dyer.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know that, but
I don't know. Isn't there a law now that you can't make money off of your in prison when you write a book? Or
yeah, but you can still write the book and donate the proceeds to charity. But thank you, caller. I appreciate the call.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, John.
All right. Okay. So, am I right about that? I mean, 78. Would you want to get out of prison when you're 78 years old?
Well, would you want to sit in there for 26 years? That's the issue.
That's the issue. And
Now,
so I mean, I still have this in my head. He's going to be thinking about that.
Well, I hope his lawyer and his former peer group and the federal folks are helping him understand this, and he's ready, and I hope he understands that he could be a real positive force for others and devote the rest of his life until he's in the 70s to help others in a system that he helped put people in.
Yeah. All right, caller, you're on the air with Doug Vagim. What say you? Is Keith Foster a flight risk or not, my friend?
Well, I don't know. I think hopefully there's some kind of tail on him as far as bail or a bond of some side property. But I'm glad the last caller talked about the pension. I think that when people are in the public trust, I'm not talking about John or the supervisor, if they were to do something criminal, but when you're in the police or the teacher, something like that, and you do these type of things, I don't think you should get your pension. I think you should forfeit it. And, you know, we talk about what he's going to do when he's 78. Well, one thing he's going to do is collect a pretty nice pension from the city of Fresno and the state of California, and I think that's wrong. I think it erodes the trust, the little trust that's out there in public service. And the one thing that's interesting about this that we don't talk about is race. And I think that's good. I think it gives it an unvarnished view of things, because race should not have anything to do with anything. And I'm glad to see that people on both sides aren't using race, whether he was picked on or whether it shows a predilection. I think it's very, very interesting that race is not coming up, and that's the way it should be. Justice should be blind.
I agree with you, totally, 100%. As far
So
as
you're not one of those that thinks, oh, he was chosen for this because he's black.
No, not at all. I think that, and I think the other caller, the first of the hour, that talked about people may have known about this. Things don't happen in a vacuum, and he was number 2 to be in line. And I've seen this happen in other municipalities where it's just you want to kind of look the other way. It's not a good old boy system. It's just people are friends. And law enforcement is a very tight-knit community, very, very tight-knit. And I think that I'm going to throw any aspersions on Chief Dyer, but let's just say thank God it came out before anything more happened. But I really think there should be more of a penalty besides the in-custody time. There should be a financial penalty, because how can you, as the assistant chief, go out there, tell your troops to enforce laws that you are breaking, and then get some sort of reward for later on in life? I think there has to be more accountability, and I'm talking about just where you have the public trust. First responders, firefighters, they had that incident in Fresno where people are taking the dead people's property. I mean, how, you know, you have a fiduciary responsibility. You can't kick people when they're down. And to protect your family members and to do the kind of things that he's accused of, or actually convicted of, I don't think deserves a reward after the fact. And that's just my personal opinion. I know there's nothing we can do about this case, but I think going forward we should have some sort of legislation. Just my opinion, and I really like you, Mr. Supervisor.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Well, look,
thanks, caller.
The gentleman's right about the pension issue in, for example, the military. If you do something wrong in the military and you're court-martialed, you lose your pension. In de facto, in civil government, at least in California, And until you're found guilty, and until you are, unless you are proven that what you did while you were working was defraud the government, and you were taking money through embezzlement or whatever means, you're basically, that is your salary belonging to you in the retirement system. However, the city could, if they wanted to, go after civilly after Deputy Chief Foster to say you are making money on public time. And if they really wanted to, they probably could go civilly in court and say, we want him to pay back the money we were paying him equal to the money he was making. That the feds must have a record of what that possibly could be.
Right.
And we want him to pay that back. Whether the city will do that, I doubt it. I think they want to wash their hands of it. He will be tagged into the pension system at the time. I believe he probably could start drawing his pension now.
Possibly.
When he's in jail, I believe.
Yeah. But how's he going to spend it? And the other thing is, we all worry about.
I don't think that child support goes away.
No, the child support doesn't go away. But how do we know for sure? And this is one thing that we all worry about. When we reach the age, let's just say for the sake of argument, he spends the next 25 years in prison, gets out when he's 78.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, at least most of us, I think, worry about at 78, am I going to be in a walker? Am I going to be in a wheelchair? Am I going to be in some rest home? Where am I going to be? Am I going to be in good health? Is my health going to be good enough where I'm going to be able to enjoy and spend that retirement? That's the other question.
Well,
he might be drawing it,
he
but
may
who
come
knows
out,
what kind of shape he'll be in.
He may come out in better health. He may lose all that weight.
He might be in better health than you and me at 78.
Well, I don't know if you remember the Operation Rezone. You remember that with the feds?
I wasn't here, but I remember that when the feds swooped in.
And did an undercover sting.
Yeah,
and
nobody knew about it.
And a lot of guys went away. I knew a lot of those guys because I was serving in government at the time. They all went away to those quote-unquote club feds, and they cracked down on that club fed concept. But boy, they all came back losing 40 and 50 pounds, and they were in shape and all that kind of stuff. They had good meals, they had good workouts, good tans. Hey, I hope Chief Foster will lose some weight, become healthy. He may be a very healthy person when he comes out of the system.
Don't know that. Yeah, we just don't know for sure. Anyway, 436 MeTV, option 11. A lot of time left here on the program. Back with more of Doug Vagim in just a moment.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the KitchenAid appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Save big with KitchenAid. Right now, get up to a $1,000 prepaid MasterCard when you purchase select KitchenAid appliances. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
Back here with Doug Vagim. A caller is waiting to talk to you, Doug, and so you're on the air, caller. What is your question or comment?
My comment is this. I think that Chief Foster would be safer in custody than he is out on the street because it's supposed to be Brotherhood of the Badge, and there'll be a lot of skeletons out there, probably a lot of organizations going down. And I don't think this whole thing's over. I think once he's in there, he's going to sing like a canary. And I don't know that he'll make 78, but he might have a bunch of company in there with him pretty soon. What do you think, Doug? I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, my fear is that he, hopefully the feds do have the ability to keep him away from the population that Fresno PD and other departments in and around Fresno, whether it was state or federal government, that have put people away in conjunction with work that the Fresno Police Department did, or any other local law enforcement agency. He doesn't run across those people that may do him harm from a criminal standpoint for what they ended up having to pay the price. However, where the gentleman's mindset is going to be a very important factor, because I would hope that if he does have a reinforcement group, whether it's formal within the department or the federal government has a ombudsman to these types of situations, or his own attorney has some mechanism to help these folks recognize that they're be prepared for the rest of your life to change your lifestyle. I don't know. It's a tough thing. None of us. That's why it is what it is, because people have to pay a price when they do something wrong, and it's none of us want to put ourselves in it. It's kind of like us thinking about sitting in a coffin and having someone close the lid on us while we're alive. I mean, it's that kind of like what's going to happen.
Walls are closing in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but he's going to need support. That his life is not over. He can do something productive with it inside, and he can help others in addition to help himself.
All right, I want to change topics now and put up the photo of Brooke Ashton. He was here a couple of weeks ago as a guest. He's the president of the Fresno Unified School Board. There he is right now. I like that picture of him because he's saying, what? Me? You're focusing on me? And so maybe that should be the caption under that photo. And so, yes, we are focusing on you, Brooke Ashton, because an article recently in the Fresno Bee says that they all approved this personal assistant that will be hired for each board member. There's 7 board members, $25,000 a year. It's a part-time job. Okay, that comes out to, what, $175,000 a year, if that's true. And so can't that money, Doug, be spent in other ways, better ways? What will be the job description of this person? What will their duties be? Aren't these elected board members, isn't their responsibility to do what these other people supposedly are being hired for?
Yes. And to have an assistant, I think, begins the process of disenfranchising yourself away from the job of what you were sent there to do.
Is that why they did it, to try to distance themselves from maybe there's certain responsibilities that they have as a board member?
Well, I'm sure they're trying to buffer themselves from the phone calls or the. I know what happens in a school district. Parents are loaded with phone calls about my student was abused, a dress code was applied where it shouldn't have been, my son or daughter got expelled. Will you help? That kind of thing. All the way up to the fact that there's things in that book that I don't like and it shouldn't be in that book. Why don't we change that book? So they're fielding a lot of questions. Now, how could that be solved? First of all, they could get a superintendent that they all agree that's going to work for them as the trustees, number one. Number two, the superintendent can help put somebody in between.
Hang on, caller.
And have that one person or whatever be that person that traces down it with ease. Hey, I just got a phone call. I'm a trustee. Easy connection. I don't have to go through 3 channels to get to the person that I want to get to. I talk to that one person. They go after it, but they're part of administration.
But can't they spend that money in better ways? You know, the school teachers are always squawking. In fact, there's going to be a rally next week. They want more money. They want more benefits. Yeah. Forget what day it is. I have it here in my briefcase, but there's a rally out there that's going to be happening. So $25,000 a year, you could buy a lot of school supplies for $25,000.
Well, it's not going to be 25. It's going to be probably 35 with benefits. You're probably talking 50.
Well, they reported 25.
Yeah, but that would be a basic entry level, and then I guarantee you most of them would be.
It'll be upwards of, say, 35.
That
40.
range will go from 25 to 35 to 40.
But it's supposed to be a part-time position.
Well, when you say part-time, it's probably going to be the full 30 hours just to keep them under the cap, probably.
Okay.
But even with that, it won't take long before they come full-time. Guarantee it. It's a toe in the door. It begins the process where you start insulating your trustees away from the public. And
so it's a bad idea.
I think if they need help to field more of these population-driven calls, because it is a big district.
It's a waste of our money.
The superintendent needs to put somebody or more than one in in between the trustees and the rest of the staff so they can go get the information that a trustee seeks, that they have confidence in.
Right. Caller, go ahead. You're on with Doug Vagim.
I think Doug Vagim makes no sense at all. I want you to listen to this, Doug, please. I've gone to many board meetings and I've seen many budgets made. During the Michael Hansen era and as well as this year's budget that is being brought up right now, there is a line item in there in the communications department that talks about putting up $500,000 to give to organizations that have nothing to do with education or educating students. It just give them away, like Top Dog Foundation or the Police Chiefs Foundation, or Marjorie Mason Center, or these kind of things. Right? I mean, with the Fresno Women's Council, things that have nothing to do with teaching children or doing things in the classroom. Fresno Unified has in the past and is now giving $500,000 away annually to organizations that have nothing to do with education. Now that's just worthless spending, wouldn't you say, Doug? Here's another thing. Our former superintendent, he said, "Well, I need a chief of staff." No. I need 2 chiefs of staff. Okay, to handle my calendar. Okay. Oh, and on top of that, I need to contract out to various consulting firms to help me do my job as consultants. A more waste of money. If a superintendent can't do his job, why would you want to pay out for consulting firms? That's more wasted dollars right there. So, I mean, the board has done nothing except to say, I want to spend $25,000 for an assistant per person. And that's with no. And I've talked to the county trustees. They said that's no benefit. It's just $25,000. That's all it is. Okay.
But let me.
Trustee De La Cerda says, "Well, we have an award-winning constituent services," and he says, "Well, let's expand the constituent services department." Well, when you say expand, that means you want to hire more permanent positions that are going to cost more than $25,000 per position, as well as the benefits that go with it. So you're not talking. No one on there is talking about saving money. No one there is talking about doing that.
Yeah, but
I don't think.
I don't know where people get off and say, well, if I spend $175,000 a year, well, so what? You're already wasting over $1 million, probably $2 million a year annually on positions that have nothing to do with education.
Okay. Listen, caller, hang on a second. I never said that the Fresno Unified School District is saving money. I brought up this issue because apparently they're not saving money. That's the issue.
Well,
they're not saving money. They're not giving it to the teachers.
What I'm saying, John, is this: like you said, they're not saving money in many things that they do. They waste money in everything. Lots.
I know, but every organization does that. They have a slush fund that they give.
But what I'm saying, John, is that when you are made aware of it, on an annual basis, saying, look, this is a part of your budget that is wasteful.
But it doesn't change. It hasn't changed.
How? Does nothing to do about to cut that wasteful spending. Okay, now it's just egregious.
I understand that, but how?
Wanton waste.
But caller, this has been going on for years in the state of California with education. And this little slush fund that you're talking about with these giveaways to the Marjorie Mason Center, to this group, to that group, that's been going on since the beginning of time. That's what organizations do.
Are you saying that because it's been going on to the end of time? Are you justifying that?
I'm not justifying that, but
for so long that it's a good thing.
I didn't say it's a good thing. I pointed out that it's been. You're misunderstanding me. What I'm saying is it's been going on so long. It's nothing new. But when you bring these things to the forefront and you bring it to light, nothing changes. Even if you vote someone out, why doesn't it change? Got to turn them up.
Okay. Is if you take away that $500,000 that you spend, that is wasteful spending,
right,
and you put it towards something that helps the district directly.
Oh, we got to go. Caller, I'm sorry, we're out of time. We got to go. How much time, Carrie? Okay, Doug. Okay. See you next time.
Yeah.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The gentleman's got good calls.
Employees and people in the district.
If you have a need to promote your business or event, please consider MeTV Fresno for your next campaign. MeTV reaches over 100,000 of your potential customers in the Fresno area every single week. Plus, you can rest assured that your commercial is running in the greatest family-friendly programs of all time. MeTV Fresno delivers a strong, loyal audience ready to buy, and your campaign will cost a fraction of what you're paying for your advertising.